Okay, go ahead.
Preparing for the bar is whatever, it'll psych you out, but at the end of the day, if you just gotta treat it as a game.
Yeah.
It's not an assessment of your actual knowledge or your talent or your abilities or literally anything other than, you know, what you can do on the bar exam. And I looked at it or went into it preparation as viewing it as a game to score as many points as possible.
Yeah.
And then other than that, you know, I had signed up for one of the bar prep companies things, but like right from the get-go, I don't know, I just felt like something was off with those courses. They give you sort of a threshold number of hours to study, you know, and if you reach that threshold, your chances of passing are really good. But many of the hours that they count towards that threshold are you just watching lectures.
I agree.
Right.
And so
I went with you on that.
I
got the book. I can read a book. I'm just not sitting watching the videos.
Yeah, and for me, it was practicing the multiple choice questions because like I could issue spot pretty well when you give me a fact pattern and stuff like that. But there's a lot of like repeated tricks that they use, right, to throw you off on a multiple choice question, and so you start to recognize. That's how I scored really well in the criminal procedures, because he did a lot of multiple choice questions, and all I did was go through and see all the bar questions that had been done in the past, and he used some of those, and it was the same sort of, you know, kind of fact pattern, but he changed it up a little bit, but it was the same trick they were trying to use.
Right.
And once you learn what they're doing, you can sort out the answer pretty quick. But it's practicing those multiple choice questions was one thing, and then like Erin said, learning to score points. That's what you're doing, like the kind of negative issue spotting. You know, you're gonna get 5 points to say they're grading, you know, on everything you spot. In that situation where the person's like, you know, self-defense is an issue. Self-defense isn't an issue here because nothing happened between the two perpetrators. 5 points. It's like
speaking in the negative.
That was surprising. But you know, it's funny. I will say this: my dad said, "Don't try and memorize anything. Try to understand." And that was for me like a huge help. And I had aha moments. It's like when I was studying for like trying to study and understand due process. It is a, you know, the language that's used is foreign, the concepts are whatever, but once you understand the concept, it's like a light goes off and I'm like, okay, there's a due process violation here. I can't really work it out. I don't know which case applies, but there's a case out there that applies to this because I know that violates a person's due process rights. And then a little light bulb went off. I remember we were watching Game of Thrones and my wife, it was like the 6th season. And then she all of a sudden, like in this one episode, I look over and she's crying. She's like, I understand like who all the houses are and how everything in the history. This is a beautiful story. This is an incredible thing. She was up there crying in the middle of this episode. And I'm like, because it just dawned on her. And I did have a couple of those situations or those, experiences in law school where I'm like, oh, like my first year, I got pneumonia like 3 times, right? Because I was just staying up too much, and I just got sick, and I was just like, all I got to do is just, make flashcards until 4 a.m. every night or whatever. And it wasn't until I started to read to understand and not memorize that I was able, like I studied less, got better grades. Yeah. 2nd and 3rd year.
Never had a problem with that. Well, I got one more law school question before you do the old quiz on there, and so it's. See if there's a change. So I don't know, when I was going through and Chace, I think it was probably the same for you. Now there's a couple exceptions, but you to pass a class, you don't get it's not even like college or anything, MBAs or anything like that. There's multiple things you take and multiple tests. There's one test at the end, and that's it.
Right, yeah.
That's it. So that's the pressure. Is like you don't have a base when you're going through, and you're a week from the final, and you've been in this class doing
no feedback
work every single day, no feedback, and you take one test to see if you win or lose. Was it still the same way generally?
Oh yeah, it was the same way with that part, and I mean it's nerve wracking because you don't, like you said, no feedback, no really, standard to gauge where you're at by the whole semester. But it's after the first year, you really realize, at least nowadays, you got to try really hard to fail out. I mean, because you know the whole being graded on a relative basis, as in your grade is relative to how everyone else did,
Right.
rather than an absolute scale.
Sure.
Is actually to your advantage because,
Well, it's to your advantage if you know your class is really stupid.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
So if you got a
That's
really
right.
smart
Yeah.
class,
You
you're
in
like,
tr- you in trouble.
yeah, you got a really smart class. You're like, man, I might need to change classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like 80, you know, almost 80% of people fall right into the middle range. Like, you know,
It's the bell curve.
Yeah.
It's the bell curve. Yeah.
exactly. And
And that was, you know, when our dads were going through the bell, they did the bell curve, but they cut out the
The
third,
last
the
third,
bottom. They
yeah.
just said you're failing,
you're
no
out.
matter what.
seems like schools really need the money these days.
Yeah, exactly. I don't disagree with
Yeah,
that.
it's all that federal money coming
I
in.
think, I
But-
think the one person that left our class did voluntarily, like they didn't get kicked out.
We had a couple. We had a girl just break down and crying, and I mean it was rough. She left.
Yeah.
Never seen her again. I don't know.
How about here's a story. This is how much you need to not pressure yourself while you're in law school. We had a classmate of ours fall asleep halfway. No, I don't even know. I mean, it was at least halfway through, maybe sooner, of the contract's exam.
Yeah,
Sleeping.
and like we said, you got one exam.
In yeah.
That's it.
She went all the way through, and contracts is your first year. So, yeah.
So she made it.
Yeah.
Don't hire her. Don't hire her out there.
no,
But, you know, we're not gonna say any
Yeah.
names, but she might fall asleep on you.
Yeah, but I want to talk about the bar exam. Just say one more thing, because a little public service announcement out there for all the spouses, brothers,
Yeah.
sisters, husbands, wives, whatever, of the people that are going into law school. I want to just so you can empathize with them a little bit. My wife didn't really understand the pressure that I felt until she was dropping me off for the bar. And the car in front of us, right, the boyfriend was dropping the girlfriend off. And he gets out of the car, goes around, gives her a hug. She hugs him. They hug for an inordinate amount of time. It was weird, right? Because we had to wait to pull up for me to get out.
Well,
right?
you're a voyeur.
And then
You're watching.
Yeah.
you
And
know.
I'm like, okay. It's like, all right, let's get it together, guys.
Yeah.
And then she starts to walk away from him. She gets to the door, turns around, bawls crying, runs back to him, dives in and sits there for another 10 minutes. And she's like, what's going on in there? What are y'all going into?
Yeah.
And what people have to realize is so
That's rough.
everybody, all your friends, everybody that you know, all your relatives, all know that you're going to law school and that you're taking the bar exam.
Yep. And they know when the results are coming out, too,
right?
boy.
And you've spent a ton of time and a ton of money to try and get to this.
Ton of
And,
money.
and they're excited for you. They want to know the results. They're eager to find out what happened, whatever. And you feel in a way almost like a fighter that's fighting on pay-per-view that everybody's going to see if I fail or I succeed.
And they're right.
And they're 100% right. And then this is your profession. This is what you want to do and what you want to use to supply, and can I do it? Can I actually provide for my family in the way that I want? Or was this all for nothing? So it is a big deal. So give those people a lot of leeway.
Chace, you know me well enough to know I don't get very nervous in situations like with tests, and tests have been easy for me for forever, and it didn't. And I don't think tests really show if you're smart or not. But I'm just a pretty good test taker. I can pick out issues and all that kind of crap. And I don't get nervous with tests. So I'm going to the bar and exam, and I by myself, and I lock my key. I would never do this. It's not like this is a car that I bought for $1,000, and it was terrible. It didn't even have a radio in it. It was awful. And so we had to bring laptops and stuff at that time, and so I shut the door. I'm just frazzled. It's in the morning. It's the first day of the bar exam, and I locked my keys in the car, and my laptop's in there, and I was just like,
This is not
shit.
good.
I just busted the window and got it. I was like, I'll just yeah. But that's how I started the bar exam.
Yeah,
So
not a good start for
start.
sure. The only other thing I want to say about bar preparation, I used mainly 4 different things. So I ditched Barbary completely and used this bar preparation thing called Adapted Bar. And essentially it's got, the only questions they use are ones that were actually created by the NCB
Yeah, the ones that create the questions.
Yeah, the ones that
For the
actually
bar.
create the bar exam questions.
Gotcha.
And then so that and this book titled F the Bar Exam. And which really helped like get me in the right frame of mind for the bar exam, and it really helps you understand that it's just a matter of playing the game and getting as many points as you can, and it also gives you a way to study for the multiple choice and the essays. You know, multiple choice, you just want to do as many NCBE multiple choice questions as possible.
Sure.
And then essays, that's too long to go into, but just read the book. And then the other thing was these outlines called Separac outlines. This dude that went to law school, became an attorney, his last name's Separac, Separac, and
Link in the bio.
yeah, he created these outlines from the bar exam. Like basically created the laws straight from reading the NCBE questions.
Yeah.
And and then the fourth thing was what's it called? Emmanuel's
Yes.
MCBE
Multiple
thing,
choice questions.
strategy
Right.
and
strategy.
yeah.
They didn't have the other one. They had that. I remember seeing that when I was going through it, but they definitely didn't have the other ones. So
Yeah.
hey, I think it's time.
Yeah.
I think it's time.
Yeah, so
Let's put it in the
Aaron,
hot seat.
we know you
Yeah.
passed the
This-
bar exam, but can you
Yeah.
pass the layman's law school?
I think
we
I
gotta
can.
have some
Bar
kind of
exam.
like thing that goes.
So I'm gonna play a couple of clips for you in different
Okay.
areas of the law, and you tell us what you see as far as like what the elements are and sort of what's going
Break
to
it
happen
down
in a
for
particular
us.
case. Yeah,
Well,
just
you-
break
you-
this thing down for us.
Listen, here's the thing, Chase. He has told us that his law school didn't do the Socratic method as much as he'd like.
Here,
No,
Here we
here
go.
you go.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Mr. Hawk, please stand up. If you would, D'Angelo, bring up the clips here. Okay, so it looks like this guy's had a person come in and get stuff out of his backyard, and he's got a system here for deterring that in the future. What are we seeing here? What are the problems with this?
I mean, I don't know necessarily what you would
Pause
title
there.
the law, but I know, you can have a fence, and you could almost certainly have a fence with spikes on it, for severed heads. As far as this, it looks almost like he cut a bandsaw and put it up there.
Exactly.
It's spiky. As long as the person can see it.
That's
you
a
can't-
key element.
Yeah,
There
you
you
can't have a trap, essentially. You can't have, a spring-loaded shotgun for someone to walk through your backyard and then it blows their head off.
Yeah, so property owners have a duty to make their premises safe, and you can put up like barbed wire and
Yeah,
stuff like that. But
sure.
what you can't do is set up
It's hide it.
trap.
to be trapped.
And
That one you could certainly argue. I think
is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's close.
It's close,
yeah,
right?
right.
Because I would think you'd have to walk up to it and
Yeah.
look for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, if it's at night.
I would say
Yeah.
this. I don't think that in law school that would rise to the level of being a trap, but in the real world, if I had a client that got severely injured by that,
Yeah.
I'd take that case.
I put it. I'd like so that point you made. The difference between law school and real life. I have basically understood that difference like this. Basically, if you could extort someone with it, then it's a claim in real life.
There's a big difference between law school and the real world for sure.
I mean, it's
yeah.
like they have this thing up, the client gets hurt.
Yeah.
As long as you can cause enough trouble for the other side, it's a claim, and it probably doesn't give us the best look, but whatever.
No, but you're technically right. But would you do it? You know, it depends on the situation. So, like, if the guy goes over there and he is going to burgle the place,
I'm not
and
taking
he gets his hands cut on it, we're not taking it, right? But if somebody's looking for their dog and it's actually ended up in the or a kid,
if you throw the ball over the fence and the kid
tries to go
grabs it.
over and he cuts his genitals and he can't have kids anymore, taking that one,
It depends on the person and the situation for sure.
Yeah, and that just brings up the phrase in law school that you hear all the time. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
people
depends on the
complain
facts.
about attorneys all the time, but that's a lawyer's answer because it's true.
100%.
I got to know more.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
you did
basically
pass.
it's
You give a passing grade.
You have to warn of non-obvious dangers. I know that much as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what the next one is. So it says there the police siren is on, but let's look at the light. It's green for our truck there.
Basically,
this is criminal, not civil, right?
No, that is we're talking about civil law here.
Okay, I just saw criminal.
Yeah, well, that criminal law comes.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
That's the lead for the next one. Go ahead.
So it's just like a public officer or someone driving an ambulance or a police officer with their lights on. They can, everyone knows is when they have their lights and sirens on, they can blow through the red lights or whatever. It's basically on the civilian to stop for sure. And other than that, an officer can't just drive recklessly because his sirens and lights are on. But if he's got his sirens and lights on for a legitimate purpose, and he has to run through a red light and you don't stop, it's your fault.
Yeah.
I got two real world ones on
Go
you.
ahead.
I had a case where the lady was not at fault and similar situation, and nothing we can do about it. She had a radio on, she couldn't hear the lights, but they were on, siren was going, all that. But the last point you made is the greater point, is that they still can't act recklessly. And this one, it doesn't look like it. But there are cases where we have one now pending where the officer's driving
75 miles an hour.
Something 30 or 35 miles over the speed limit.
Oh, wow.
And they are chasing a person that essentially, did I think they call them California stops. They kind of roll through.
Wow.
It's not like this guy had just killed somebody. So that's where, when you say an answer like that, it's like, okay, well, what was going on there? Why was he running through the red light?
Yeah.
What if, there's all those stuff that goes through it.
And in that, and I think in that same case that he was going through, you have to consider where it happened. So, like, going 35 miles an hour on over the speed limit and on an interstate or some sort of major highway and going through a light's one thing. If you're doing it in front of a daycare center that's letting out, it's another. And so in that particular case, it was like a downtown square where the speed limit is like 25 because it's like, and I think it was
people are walking.
It was Thanksgiving and everybody's like milling around. So the facts matter.
The facts matter.
Yeah. So
but I give him a passing grade on that. He named every element.
I think he had a passing grade on that one. Yeah. And do we have a crime here committed by the guy in black, or does he have a justifiable self-defense?
So with the he committed battery for sure. And even though he didn't hit, the actual person, their feet or arms or limbs or anything, I forgot the term, but essentially he had his skateboard. His skateboard is considered part of his body, and it also is in tort law. I forgot the case they go over in law school, but in law school, someone's walking through a restaurant with a plate, and basically someone commits an offensive touching to the plate, and that is also battery and tort as well. And as far as self-defense, I mean,
He was coming at him, Aaron. You saw the skateboards barreling down on him. Come on.
it's got to be, you know, proportionality. So what's proportional there for the guy that kicked the skateboard to do is nothing.
Or just
Because,
step to the side. If he was worried, I
Well,
could
here's the
see
thing:
him
he
saying,
stepped toward and played again.
Right.
If you couldn't, if you can.
I could see him arguing that this guy was wobbly on the skateboard and thought he was going to
No,
fall off.
this guy
But
didn't.
if that is your opinion, then just step away.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
step.
No,
Seriously.
what happened was he didn't like the guy
Yeah, that
doing the little thing, and he steps towards him actually. And there are
Rail
some
slide.
jurisdictions where you have a duty to actually retreat in this situation, where you have a duty to kind of like move backwards. And he actually moves towards him. Watch this.
I don't think the
He moves towards
raising
him,
of the
watch.
fist helps either.
Boop.
At the end.
Yeah,
I
Get
don't
ready
think
to
that
line him up.
helps. I don't think that helps.
But yeah,
Okay, you pass.
you got to have, you know, there's got to be a threat that you can reasonably perceive is there for you to, you know, act in self-defense.
And you can only respond in proportional.
Yeah,
Right.
proportionality.
Yeah.
Name
So
it.
he
Got them all.
could have shoulder checked him maybe or fell into him.
He could have rode a skateboard back up and hit him. I mean, that's it.
All right. Well, let's see. What's the next one here? Another criminal law one. We talked about battery.
Oof. That's a dang takedown,
Yeah.
son.
Yeah. The technique is flawless.
Woof.
That's what you call an uchimata.
Uchimata. I call that swipe the leg, Johnny.
So
Yeah, that's
all right.
battery.
Yeah.
Is it aggravated when, I mean, he had a book bag for a weapon?
Yeah,
Didn't he hit her with
Could
it?
make that argument.
he did, but it
Yeah.
also cushioned her head from actually hitting the concrete.
Yeah.
Does he have any defenses?
Yeah.
He's blind and doesn't know what he's doing.
Go ahead, let's go back.
What if that is his car?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
What do
yeah.
you think?
It depends on the state, you know, because you can defend your personal property in some areas from, you know, not being broken into and whatnot.
And she seems to be hitting it with some sort of object
she's
in
got
an effort to
something,
get in there. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. She's got like some tool of some sort hitting the glass.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, that depends on the state.
Depends on the facts.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, you know, if the state allows you to defend your personal property with a physical act of violence, then yeah, you're good to go.
Yeah, but
And
it has to be proportional
Yeah,
again.
it's proportional. He can't, you know, sit there and basically shoot her in the back of the head because he's, you know.
Or if he had just kept hitting her when she was down.
Yeah, exactly. Like once the threat ends, it's you know, you have to stop her, then you end up catching a criminal charge yourself.
Or if he came up behind her and like
Do you think?
slammed
What
her
about?
head.
I mean, this is a little changing the topic a little bit. Same case. Do you think you have a? Let's say you represent the lady there.
Yeah.
Do you think you have? And I say lady, but that's just what she looks like to me. You can. She may identify as something different. I don't know.
the person.
The person that was breaking into the view. If she comes to you and is hurt, does she have a civil claim? What do you think?
I would the whole reality thing. It's you know, the way the dude was dressed up. I don't know if he has as many assets, you know, to go after. But
That's by the way, that's an excellent answer.
Yeah.
and I think the proportionality thing comes into play here with this one because you know, it's obviously a small, skinny, you know, fragile looking
Woman.
lady.
And then he could have just walked up and grabbed.
Yeah,
And
he
said,
could
knock
have.
that
You
shit
know,
off.
let's say this is me breaking into my car to get my laptop to go take the bar exam. And somebody just comes, the big old dude just comes, knocks the shit out of
Yeah,
me.
you definitely have
I mean,
a
I
claim.
think I got
Yeah,
one.
for sure.
But if I'm breaking into his car,
Yeah, so it would change the facts a little bit again. So he doesn't hit her with a book bag. There's no book bag on the ground. Okay, same exact. Everything happens the same. She is actually they're dating, and she's mad at him. She's going to smash his car.
Yeah.
Right? He's defending his property, but instead of the book bag there cushion her fall, she hits her head on the concrete. Okay, she suffers a traumatic brain injury. She has trouble eating. She has trouble doing all of her. So, yeah, that changes whether
It
or not
does.
you take the case because it's
Yeah.
then you have
And
damages.
proportionality.
Yeah, and then juries are going to be, is it proportional to trip somebody, put them on the ground? Did he intend to do it? No, but he did it pretty dang recklessly.
Yeah.
He hit her pretty hard, and she could have very well.
Well, he hit her with the book bag first, and then he swipes her legs out from under her after she's already like limp on the car. Yeah. I would think she had a claim.
Yeah, if she's hurt bad, a lot of lawyers will take that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's go see the next one. I think we ain't got one or two more. Now this is a convoluted one here. Ooh.
Censored.
I think his pants came off. Yep.
I actually just learned about this sort of thing the other day, where essentially, if you're not crossing a crosswalk, you have no right to walk out in the middle of the road in front of a car. And at least in Georgia, I think it's like 100 yards away. You have to be 100 yards?
I mean, we're asking you, my man.
I think it's 100 yards or something, 100 feet from traffic if you're gonna walk into the road. And basically this guy that walked out in the middle of the road really without looking is gonna be responsible for the property damage, even though he just got his leg broke for sure. For sure.
Yeah, and that is to talk about like comparative negligence. That clip is there to talk about comparative negligence to a degree. But what you saw was there was a car that had a dash cam there, it was actually blocking the view of the motorcyclist, right? And so the motorcyclist's negligence is going to actually be reduced by the fact that the car was blocking his view. He was watching where he was going, and this person comes out from behind. The motorcyclist was basically blindsided by the fact that there was a person that was going to walk out.
I'm gonna go the opposite then. So they come in and severely hurt. I mean, how fast is this motorcycle going? Do we know?
Is he speeding?
Is he speeding?
Did he look like he was speeding?
I don't know. It was censored. Maybe he was. Was he drunk? I don't know. But I'm going to find out that information before. So that goes comparative negligence. And my walker walking across the street, I mean, maybe there's not, there, I'm from Thompson. There are no crosswalks.
Yeah.
You have to cross the street. So where's the nearest crosswalk? What is happening here? Did, the walker look and he couldn't see the motorcycle because he's going fast and he's back behind all these cars. Maybe the city's responsible because they don't have adequate parking or adequate crosswalks. There's all kind of things at play here. But it all comes down to how bad that person is hurt.
Yeah, if that person's dead, then the motorcyclist is going to be paying.
Wait, y'all think really?
If that motorcycle, which motorcycle drivers usually go above the speed limit because they can get to high speed so quick. That looked like a pretty crowded area. I don't know how fast he's going, but I can find out.
Yeah, so say the guy died. He was a younger guy, 35. All his economic damages for any sort of lost wages for the rest of his life, that's going to be applicable straight away. Then the actual injury itself, how it occurred, and then there's going to be comparative negligence, right? And so if you can just get 1% over, right, the damages are going to be through the roof if the guy works, right? It's going to be millions of dollars. But let's say, for instance, you only get 49% of $1 million or 51% of $1 million. That's still not a bad day
for sure.
Work.
And like when people see that, that's the problem I think with our culture right now is the little quick things, and you got to make a judgment on it. But there's a lot of other facts we don't know. But generally, I 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you. But there could be something else.
For sure.
So we got to look into it, and that's our job as lawyers.
He could have seen the person crossing the road and wanted to hit him.
Or there could have been somebody, or there could have been somebody. Well, see, now you're talking intentional torts, and now I don't want that because then there's no insurance.
That's right.
But there could have been people walking before him. We don't know. We didn't. So there's all kind of things that you got to look at to see if there's a case or not.
Was that road closed? And they
you
supposed to be riding on it.
You don't know.
All right. What's the next one?
Speaking of crossing the crosswalks and cars not stopping, if you ever visit Rome, Italy, one of the strangest things you'll experience if you're trying to walk around on your own is that they have crosswalks. They have a ton of crosswalks. However, no car is going to stop for you
Really?
preemptively. You just have to walk out in the crosswalk and
To stop
trust
'em.
and know that the Italian drivers, they stop. And it is crazy because they stop on a dime. You just start walking
just
out.
slam.
Yeah, and they'll just, every time.
You know, that freaked me out. Sorry, because I didn't understand that in England, and I went to.
Saying you're waiting.
Oh well, no, I sat at the crosswalk, and I was standing there, and then all this traffic in like 4 lanes stopped, and I'm like, there's no light, there's just a crosswalk, and I'm like,
So
what's
it's
going
opposite.
on? And so they're like, let's go, get in the whole cross. You want to go? Yeah, it's just the opposite. As soon as you put a toe
They're
close to it, they all stop.
Yeah.
And they were looking at me, and I'm like, what are y'all waiting on? Why? I'm waiting for y'all not to be here. What's going on? And they're like, well, come on, please go.
But that goes to where you are too. So if you're in New York and that guy gets hit, New Yorkers are going to go, well, you're not go out, walk out on the road, idiot.
Yeah. Go,
If
hey,
you're
I'm
in-
walking here.
right,
You know?
If you're in Thompson, Georgia, and you walk out there, you don't. Dude, slow down.
I'm gonna have to
Like,
back
what is
over
this?
you just to get you out of here.
Right,
The population.
Let's see if we can go to the next one. I think this is the last one. Oh, no. There's 2 more. One more. All right, we got a car parking. The Jeep wasn't happy about it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
Yeah, I like it. He was waiting on that spot. I just don't. I mean, he must have just had some sort of setup there. I think he sped it up there because I think he hooked it up to his bumper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What we got, Aaron?
Yeah, that's trespass to chattel, where you're basically, and on messing with someone's property, on their property without their consent. And if he had maybe driven like a mile down the road with the car attached like that, he could, there might be conversion where you end up using someone else's property without their consent. So much to the point where basically someone else could believe it was your property.
Right, you're depriving them of ownership in the way in which you're handling it.
Yeah, you have to own it or act like you're owning it, and then you could have that guy could be hit with conversion.
Right, and when you say get hit, what are we talking about here?
Just basically the market value of the car. I think. Yeah.
Or nominal damages for the
Yeah, or
trespass.
I mean,
Just an explanation.
That was a perfect answer.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
I don't have anything
Yeah,
to add
he's-
on
But
that.
yeah, the trespass chattel.
I give him
is
an
just,
A plus on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
A
good.
plus.
I went to law school.
All right, last one.
Goodness.
It looks like there's some black
Ice
ice
or
on there.
something, yeah.
Yeah. I don't mean to laugh.
No, that truck's getting hit. Yeah. Boom.
All right, so the guy's driving on the roads there. Is he responsible for all that damage?
I think this is a perfect example of one of those things that we were saying drove most of us crazy in law school with negative issue spotting. Basically, if there was a flood randomly, flooded everyone's house in your neighborhood along with, and went up to y'all's everyone's roof, and your car started floating, and your car ended up floating and hitting another car, that would be considered an act of God.
Yeah.
And then on your law school exam in this one, even though it literally makes zero sense, at least to me, to mention it is the whole act of God thing, as in the roads being iced over could be an act of God.
Sure.
But here it's not really, because this guy, it's not like it was all of a sudden. It was not like it's like appeared out of nowhere.
Right.
This guy walked out of his house, and his sidewalk, grass, and driveway and everything else was frozen around him, and he proceeded to drive anyways.
On an incline.
Yeah, and then went down an incline.
Well, maybe his wife was in labor. I mean, maybe he had to get to the hospital.
Yeah, but I mean,
You're right.
Aaron, you got it right.
Yeah,
You looked
absolutely.
at all the things, but you also looked at the practical side of it, in that, like, you also have to consider the assumption of risk that he took.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the weatherman came out and said there's a ice advisory.
Yeah.
You know, he knows where he lives. He knows where the hills are. He chose down to go down that hill anyway. He knows it's cold.
You see the
there's
woman
a
falling.
woman
I just-
that can't walk on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a so that you could hold him responsible. There is the defense of the act of God, and
Absolutely.
that and a situation that is exactly the kind of thing that we argue about.
That's the balance.
in mediation.
Yep.
I have one. I don't know why this. Basically, there's this case in law school that we went over. And it doesn't really have anything to do with this. I mean, sort of does. I mean, same subject area towards, but I always love this case, and it's because of just the factual scenario. So it was a slip and fall in like a grocery store, and this lady slipped and fell on a banana peel, like in Mario Kart, basically. and there was, you know, in most states with slip and falls, there has to be, you know, the facility supervisor, whoever works at the store and is responsible for this stuff, you know, to keep things dry and, you know, objects
Safe.
out of people.
Yeah,
There has to be at least enough time for them to have become aware of
15 minutes right now in Georgia. It might be less
Yeah.
right now.
of the issue that, you know, that's out in the middle of the aisle. And there was only really one. They didn't have cameras in the store, and there was only really one single part of the factual scenario that allowed the person to make a claim and allowed them to prove the notice thing. What do y'all think that was?
Was the peel was brown?
Yeah.
For real?
And when we were going over in this case in law school,
I'd have won
I
that
didn't
without.
know that
I would have won that without. I don't need a brown peel. That case right there. Why don't you have cameras? We're in 2023. It costs 5 cents a day to put a camera up here. Why do you not have more than one employee? How often do you check? What are your own policies about checking these floors? Do you check them every 30 minutes? Check them in an hour?
Did you do you like bananas?
Yeah, man. Did you stock the bananas? How do you
eat
think
the
you got
banana?
that? Oh, I win that case in a heartbeat.
one of the main reasons I like this case so much. So, torch class was in the morning at 9 a.m. for me, and every morning I would bring in a banana and eat it at the first, you know, right when class started, and we start going over this case, you know, right when I get into class, you know, right when I start eating this banana, and by the time the professor gets around to asking that exact same question I had asked y'all, my damn banana peel was brown. And the only reason I got it is because I was looking at my banana and I literally raised my banana up in the air and she was like, exactly.
It's awesome.
Shining moment.
That's your go-to right there.
Nice. Yeah,
That's great.
I had a guy that was pretty sharp. That was one of my professors, and he actually was telling us about a case that he had. And you know, anytime you have like a hazard like that in a business, you always have to do comparative negligence. Well, this AutoZone had a parking lot that the concrete was coming up, and they had these big patches where it'd be like a half inch or an inch down and stuff like that. And if you go there during the day and you take pictures or whatever, it's obvious where all these holes and everything are, and and so they said that this guy, okay, he should have seen
Had equal or superior knowledge.
Exactly, and he'd been there before and all that stuff. Okay, but what the and this is where it comes to like actually reading the stuff and paying attention to the details. He says, but it happened at night, number one, and number two, it was raining. And what had happened is that all the holes and the areas that were they got leveled out. They got leveled out. It didn't look like there was a drop. And this particular guy like stepped in this, caught his toe on the thing, hit a parking little block, and basically is brain damaged for the rest of his life. And eating with a straw, and it was just a terrible set of facts. But just that knowing that it was raining, knowing how it would affect, because he looked at the pictures of the holes during the day, and he's like, if I would walk around that, I wouldn't walk through that.
Sure.
And but that's one of the ways in which a lawyer can use those sort of inferential deductive skills to really make a difference. And
Premise liability is a is a wicked beast.
Yeah, he
I do it a
loves
lot.
it.
Well, I wouldn't say I love it. I just say I'm pretty good at it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us today. Please join us next time. I don't know what we're talking about, but we're going to have a good time.
Absolutely.
Either way. All right. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see you next time.